We can't take gaming out of kids' life nowadays. That's what childhood has become, you know what I mean?
The thing that you touch on that's on every parent's mind is addiction. I've always been a gamer since I was a student. The hypocritical part is my son has no iPad time. I share that fear, and there is good reasons for wanting to put guardrails around how your kids game and how often they game. But I'm just saying I don't think it's so cut and dry. I actually feel some sympathy for the kids. The kids are just more and more kept at home. If there's not much opportunities for engagement, then gaming is a thing, what? And then if it becomes pathological, it's kind of not really their fault, right? Naga, are you much of a gamer in your schooling days?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay, I just finished, if you're not a gamer, you probably don't know what this is, but I actually just finished Elden Ring Shadow of the Earth 3 DLC, which was a fantastic game. It's a fantastic game. I mean...
you can try advertising me.
It's amazing, yeah. So I think my point is, even as an adult, of course I can't game as much as I used to, but it's still a, relatively significant part of my life. It used to be more FIFA. I used to play a lot of FIFA. I think you know what that is,
okay,
right?
That one I know roughly what it is.
Yeah, so, but like... to be honest, I broke too many controllers playing FIFA. It was very rage-inducing. So I gave that up. It was not good for mental health, right? Because after work, I want to relax. So I started playing Elden Ring, which is me versus the environment. I can kill monsters and that's about it, right? But FIFA is just too much toxicity.
You just said kill, and then it's relaxing. 2 words in the same sentence.
Well, I think we're creating this theme where I'm a bit of a psychopath, but that's fine. I can live with that. No, but my point is that I've always been a gamer since I was a student. And that went all the way to uni. When I was in uni, my friend who was studying in Cambridge will come over to London because every time before uni exams, we have like 3-4 weeks off. So once our exam break starts, he will come to London and stay in my house. And half the time we'll be playing Football Manager. We go to the library at 8 a.m.
Okay.
And then we'll play Football Manager to noon.
Okay.
And then we start studying after that.
Okay.
So I just want to talk about like the extent of the gaming that I did. And like, even on the precipice of exam season. And I think what I want to talk about here is like, I never really felt like gaming is bad for my grades.
Okay.
In fact, I would argue that gaming in and around the exam season, like even around A-levels, like when the exam season started, my routine was I'll go for the paper in the morning, and then I'll go home and play games in the afternoon first.
Okay.
Then I'll do a bit of revision at night, and then I'll go for the next paper every day. So it's always been a big part of like my test routine. And I never really felt like it was an impediment. If anything, I felt like it was part of my exam preparation process, part of the stress management relaxation process. So what's your view? I mean, you're not much of a gamer, so you can judge me objectively, right? What's your thinking?
Okay, instead of judging, I just share with my how I did it, right? So basically, instead of gaming, right, it's being replaced by TV. I just needed TV. So on the day of exam, I will watch TV before going to school for the exam itself. I would watch early in the morning. I just have to watch. It just makes me less anxious, right. less panicky about the exam, calms me down, to put it very simply. So I think that's what I did. So coming back to your gaming thing, right? So you're asking whether gaming is good?
Yeah.
To put it simply.
The general understanding is that gaming is not good, right? Right, like gaming hurts your grades.
Okay. Gaming hurts your grades. Okay, that sounds nice. Okay, so, but I think when we talk about that, we are already putting it as a thing which hinders learning, or it hinders the outcome of learning, or you do badly, because I suppose the main factor is time. How much, right? So when you explained just now, what I gather is that you did studying, then you did a bit of gaming, and then you go back to studying, that kind of thing. So you know how much time was allocated, or you would like to allocate for gaming. Maybe after 3 hours of studying, you just needed a break. So different people take different breaks, right? Some people just want to go out and see nature. Some people would go and jog. Some people like me would watch TV. So you gamed, but you knew when to stop and when to resume studying, because after all, you are preparing for exam. So I think it becomes dangerous, or gaming's become a addiction. That's that's the in thing everybody's talking about. When you don't know when to stop, and it just takes over you, and then takes over your mind, and then the studying becomes less of a priority. In your schedule, when you explained to me, I realized that the priority was still preparing for exam and studying. This gaming just slots in every time you get a bit tired or stressed, you just need to recharge, then you just put it in. But I think a lot of students nowadays, they don't, you see. It is like gaming and then they will recharge with studying. They slot in maybe 5 minutes or 15 minutes of studying in between, and then they game for 1 hour and then 15 minutes of studying. So I don't know.
So I'll tell you the hypocritical part. The hypocritical part is my son has no iPad time. Like, okay, generally no lah. Like,
Okay.
I mean, he's 7, so I'm also conscious of the age. But so as much as I gamed, I'm not very approving of him gaming. And I share that fear, and I think the word that you touch on, the thing that you touch on that's on every parent's mind is addiction.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my parents had their concerns too. There was a lot of nagging, obviously, about like, why are you playing Dota? Because it used to be the thing.
Yeah,
I don't know
the
whether
in
you
thing,
played.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was the in thing.
Mine
right?
was the Counter-Strike
Yeah,
era.
yeah. No, so I straddled both eras, right? So like there was the Counter-Strike, there was the Dota, but there was always a lot of nagging. It's like, oh, how can you be playing late at night and all that? I think, the real buzzword's addiction. I think it'll be foolish for us to say that gaming is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the reason why I'm hypocritical is also because I think coming through it, I have an appreciation for how wrong it could have gone.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
it might not have panned out as well for me if I just gamed that little bit more, or if I just got that little bit more addicted to gaming. I think ultimately at the back of my mind, there was that fear factor of my mom, coming out of the room and screaming at me. So there's that built-in, it's something my brother and I still joke about. We are adults now, and we're like, sometimes when we play games late at night, you just hear the door open, you're like,
Okay.
oh my God. And then you remember, actually we're living alone now. Like, mom's not in the house, but it's the Asian
fear
parent,
is still there.
it's the Asian parent trauma again, right? But yeah, I think there is good reasons for wanting to put guardrails around how your kids game and how often they game. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's so cut and dried as, stay away from games, right? Or don't play,
I think you can't do the 100% no games now. I mean, even when new students come to my class, generally I will ask them about their school, what do they do for CCA, and then when I ask the next question, what do you do during your free time? The answer is like that, game. Yeah, then I ask them what game. Then they would tell me, nowadays got, I don't know, Roblox, Valorant.
Yeah. Valorant is just CS, but more spruced up, in my view.
Yeah. And then, you see, I'm not into gaming. You see, it takes me some time to generate the Minecraft.
Yes.
Mobile Legend.
Yes.
Then the lower kids, the younger kids, they Brawl Stars, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are the things I keep hearing.
Yes.
So I say, okay, these are the things.
Not bad, you try to connect with your kids.
I have to. See, that's the point where it relates. And once you mention the game name, they know that this game exists. They get so excited that even when I teach also, sometimes when we teach, it go aha moment.
Yeah.
When you teach, the answer is correct. Oh, this is what it means. We understand. That one will brighten the face, like maybe 50%, the children's face. But this one, when I say Brawl Stars, then 100%. So
need to start writing Roblox into the curriculum.
Yes. I should come up with comprehension passages about it.
Really.
But anyway, so basically, we can't take gaming out of the kids' life nowadays. It's very difficult. We can delay the process of putting it in.
Yeah.
I mean, when they start, because I've got a 5-year-old kid, right? So my son doesn't know anything about gaming.
Yeah.
I limit screen time.
Yeah.
We try to leave it to TV. We don't do gadgets. Like example, as you said, iPad. Phone,
I know why TV.
TV because I also
Daddy
TV,
watch
right? Yeah,
TV,
Daddy
right?
watch TV. So you see, I watch Paw Patrol with my son. So
Yeah. It's quite nice though.
yeah, it's quite
That's
nice.
one of the more enjoyable
Yeah,
ones.
more
I like
enjoyable
the
ones where
storyline.
we can at least connect with it.
It's actually just Power Rangers, but with dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah. If you think about
So
it.
we
Even
really
the
sound
colour
like
scheme
fathers
kind of
now.
work. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, we limit the screen time. See, but I always, as a parent, I have this thought, right? When am I going to stop this whole limit thing? When is my son going to ask me for more?
Yeah.
That means, or when is my son going to come back from school, maybe in P1, and come back and say, my son calls me Appa. So Appa, what is Brawl Stars? You know what I mean? One day. And then I have to am I going to say, no, you're not going to game? Or am I going to say you can do it or play for half an hour? That kind of thing. I'm still in the process of thinking about it, whether I'm going to allow my kid to play or not. But I don't think I can hold on to that thought for very long.
So what I've done is when my son was 5 or 6, I actually introduced him to 2 things on the computer. So I was more against the mobile phone and the iPad thing. It's very arbitrary. It's because I'm a bit of a boomer. But I think computer is better. It's easier to kind of prevent him from being on the computer as compared to preventing them being on gadgets, right? At least that's my view. Okay. However flawed that might be. So I actually started him on Code Monkey.
Okay.
Which is a kids coding platform.
Yeah.
And I let him play chess online. So in my view, it's very silly to not let them touch devices. That's nuts, right? I mean, we're in an age where we're talking about being able to be proficient prompt engineers. That's the term that they use. I just learned it. That's what they call people who can prompt GPT very well, apparently. But yeah, so you need to be in touch with technology. And I think, I was always okay with that. I think coding on Code Monkey teaches him good things, chess. But there are ads on some of these sites. And then he started playing a bit of browser games and all that. So that has kind of creeped in. But what we have been doing is we gatekeep the timeline. And thankfully, so far, he will follow. We'll go when the long hand reaches 10, you stop and it's okay. Or
exactly, limits.
You get full marks of spelling, you get to play for a bit, right? I do think back about my childhood and gaming with very fond memories. There was a lot of after hours playing FIFA and winning 11 at my house with my friends. You don't think back to school and go, hey, you remember that history lesson? Wow, no one thinks about that. You think back about schooling days and you go, it's games with friends, right? I think that's a big part of it. So I think it's not fair, as much as I want to control, but I think it's not fair to completely stop him from it, because that's to put it crudely, is robbing him a part of the childhood, right?
I mean, if that's what childhood has become, you know what I mean? Inevitably, we can't stop it from becoming like that. Yeah. Because as you said, one thing I also have been thinking about is that if I limit the screen time or the gadget and all that, am I robbing away his learning of technology, which is useful for him or essential for him in later life? I mean, would he be lagging?
Yeah.
From his peers and all that. So that's one thought which is always running in the back of my mind when I always think about limiting screen time and limiting or don't allow gaming and all that. So, and then also gaming, as we call it, addiction. I think that's the main thing. When it becomes addiction is that basically when it goes out of hand, you don't know how much time you're spending on it and you don't do anything else other than that. So as you said, you had the discipline. You had the and then why the discipline?
Not always,
Not always, But why when the discipline came in is that because mom came in, you were scared, right?
The supervision matters.
The supervision matters. So I think parents,
for better or worse.
I will take a positive stance on it. Because parents have to be there. Nowadays, also sometimes in class, right? My student comes in. Yeah. They come in with their phones. They are playing game, and then they come in, and then they come for lesson. They will put away, and then they'll be upset. I say, what's with the upset face? And then they say, my parent is not giving me more screen time. Now I say, how is your parent? So basically there's apps to actually control your gadgets and all that. So I think technology has also helped us a lot because they have come out with these things to monitor your child, how much screen time, what are they doing on the net, basically. And these are good stuff. So actually gaming can be part of your child's learning or life or childhood, as you said. But I think more importantly, just that limit it, and also at the same time when your child plays game and all that, supervise and teach them the discipline. How you I think our parents taught us discipline in a different way.
Different is a euphemism.
My mom is like the shock factor. Suddenly mom appears, that's it. You know what I mean? So then there's always a fear. But I mean, fear is one way to teach discipline, right? But the other one is that basically talk about it. And then if you can reason out with children nowadays, I feel that it's easier to get them to understand what you want.
I think, right, actually, for Singapore in particular, I actually feel some sympathy for the kids because there was this very interesting study, right? They surveyed like Singapore youths versus American youths, and we actually game more than them on average. It was 20 hours versus 13 hours. And my on the ground interpretation as a Singaporean is because our kids don't have that much to do. Like gaming becomes this default thing because I don't know about you, but I feel like, letting like kids going to the playground to play on their own is not a thing anymore. I feel like maybe 20, 30 years ago, like when I was in primary school, I see more of that. Like in the evening, the playground's full, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like gradually there's like less and less of that. And kids are just more and more kept at home.
Of course.
And what do you do when you're at home? It's either TV or it's computer, right?
Yes,
So I think maybe part of the problem, it's also circumstantial, which is there is this like environment to build the addiction because it can be quite serious. I think they did a study for Singaporean kids and like 1 in 10 has like compulsive gaming behavior, which is quite scary, right? But if you can't go out, and as a kid, you need entertainment. I mean, adults need entertainment too, right? And more so for kids, they need to be engaged.
Yeah.
And if there's not much opportunities for engagement, then gaming is the thing, what? And then if it becomes pathological, it's kind of like not really their fault, right?
That's true. And then I think they see it as an escape thing because I think if you are, as a parent, you keep asking them to study, you send them for tuition classes after the school hours, they still have to come back home and do homework and all that. So you see a lot of time it goes into learning. They just want to escape from it and then they do a bit of gaming, which is, I think that's the reasonable factor. Okay, yes, you can have a bit of free time to relax and de-stress, you do gaming. But when that takes over the time of learning, that's when I think parents have to come in. So even before the taking over of the gaming happens, parents should come in and limit, like what you said, like what you do with your son, when the big hand of the clock goes to 10, the kind of time limits. I do that with my son also when he watches cartoon on television, right? So I just say, okay, 15 minutes. We do the screen time monitoring, so 1 hour per day kind of thing. So we'll monitor, okay, 10 minutes and then stop and then we do something else. Yeah. So I think that monitoring, if you keep doing it, it will go into the child's system and then self-discipline you can derive self-discipline from there.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of one of my students last year, right? So, really, really bright boy, VJ kid, got an A for econs eventually, but his mid-years was horrendous. And that was on the back of a very good performance in promos. So, actually, he was dipping in March, and then it got worse in June. And then in June, I called him out. I'm like, dude, what the hell is happening, right? This is not your normal standard. And he told me, sorry, too much Valorant.
Oh.
So, I mean, you see, it's real, right? Which is, if you play too much, and he's 18, he's smart, he knows what he's doing, he knows where he wants to go for uni. But even then, it's so easy to fall prey to that. And I think it's really about having the right support system to come in and pull you out of it. I wouldn't claim any credit. I would just say my role is to tell him, hey, what is it? I'm sure his parents helped him. There must be a support system around him to go, hey, I think you're going off track.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to anything, right? Even as adults, you need a support system to tell you when, hey, you know what? I think, you're kind of going not on the right track. Right? You need to switch gears. So I think gaming games are very addictive. I think they're created to be like that.
Yes, exactly.
And so it's even more important that, we just approach the whole thing with enough guardrails and supervision. And I don't think it's something that we have to excise out of a kid's life.
Not necessarily. I think coming back to parents, how to monitor, right? So instead of calling monitoring, because then, then it becomes our situation where the mom suddenly appears in the back. What are you doing? Then we get stunned. If you have open communication, you just talk to the child. You know what I mean? I give you 10 minutes, so you do your gaming and then stop. So you keep talking to your child about it and then sort of guide them instead of monitoring them. I think they will feel more open to telling you, because I also hear a lot of my students, when they come to me, they say that I start gaming at 2 a.m. Now I say, why? Because my parents are asleep. So you see, because they want to do things behind your back. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things I realized. If you have open communication and they also trust you, and then they tell you, we are gaming and I need to game for half an hour. So you allow them and then they keep to it. So this whole process must be practiced so that there's mutual trust. And then they will also learn to be accountable for their behavior. Then I think addiction wouldn't be a problem really for gaming.
There's this, that reminds me of this podcast that I really like by a Harvard psychologist. Psychologist or psychiatrist, I can't remember exactly, but it's really good because he had a gaming addiction problem. And then he had a turnaround and all that, and then he became a doctor. So he actually started this podcast, this YouTube channel about how to raise a healthy gamer. And it's really, really good. It's about, it's basically like addressed at parents, dealing with kids who have very bad gaming addictions. And I think one of the core messages that he says that echo what you said is you really need to understand, like you need to hear the kid out. You cannot be like, oh, I give you 10 minutes and the kid wants more time and be like, cannot. Then that's not a conversation, right?
Yes,
that is
exactly.
A instruction. So I mean, not bad. I mean, what you're saying is validated, by the profession.
I feel good about what I said. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay.